Hello there, this is Al24 News. I'm Abdulrahman Kashir, broadcasting live from Algiers, and to the headlines. More than 100 of Rohingya refugees who were intercepted after the boat ran into trouble off the coast of Indonesia were being sent into Malaysian waters. Plus, Hong Kong pro-democracy media outlet Stand News shut down today, one day after police raided its office and arrested senior staff out of suspected seditious publication. Also coming up, the last declaration of the World Health Organization didn't sound as assuring for people around the world as they warned of the spread of the new variant of COVID-19, explaining that the disease can overwhelm health centers and hospitals. According to media sources, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas visited the Zionist entity defense minister at his home. And finally, the United States government promised its allies in Europe transparency and solidarity regarding its planned talks with Russia to address tension over Ukraine. Starting from Algeria, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, left Algiers on Wednesday to Iran as part of his three-day visit to Algeria. President Abdelmajid Tebboune greeted his Mauritanian counterpart at Ouari Boumediene Airport, and he headed to Iran to greeted again by the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman and Wali, or let me say the Governor of Iran, Saeed Sayoud, at Ahmed Ben Bella International Airport. Osama Ayadi.
The President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, left Algiers on Wednesday for Iran as part of his state visit to Algeria. The Mauritanian President was greeted on his departure by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, from Ouari Boumediene International Airport. National leaders and figures also attended the ceremony, including the President of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, the Chairman of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, the President of the Constitutional Court, Omar Belhaj, and the Lieutenant General Saeed Chengriha, Chief of the Staff of National People's Army, as well as members of the government. The Mauritanian President was greeted on his arrival in Oran by the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, and the Wali or Governor of Oran, Saeed Sayoud, at Ahmed Ben Bella International Airport. The Mauritanian President and the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, reviewed a military detachment of the National People's Army who paid them the honors. The welcoming ceremony took place in the presence of members of the Council of Nations and deputies of the National People's Assembly. Later on, the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, accompanied the Mauritanian President to the VIP lounge where the two parties had talks. It's worth recalling that the visit is part of the joint efforts to strengthen bilateral relations and cooperation between the two brotherly countries. Earlier, Algeria and Mauritania signed several cooperation agreements on Tuesday in the fields of higher education and scientific research, vocational training, and small and medium enterprises, on the sidelines of the official three-day state visit to Algeria at the invitation of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune.
Algeria and Mauritania signed on Tuesday cooperation agreements and memorandums of understanding concerning several sectors on the sideline of the state visit to Algeria by Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani. Zara Farjani.
Algeria and Mauritania signed several agreements related to the sectors of higher education and scientific research, health, vocational training, and micro-enterprises. This came on the second day of the official visit paid by Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani to Algeria at the invitation of his Algerian counterpart, President Abdelmajid Tebboune.
The relations of the two countries are ancient and know a remarkable development that has increased in pace in the recent period by opening the border crossing, which has already become a bridge of communication between the residents of the borders area and doubled the level of trade exchange, which is an important gain for the two countries.
The signed agreements included an agreement for cooperation in the field of higher education and scientific research signed by Algerian Minister Abdelbaki Ben Ziyan and his Mauritanian counterpart Amal Sidi Ould Sheikh Abdullah. The Algerian Minister of Health Abdelrahman Ben Bouzid and the Mauritanian Minister of Employment and Vocational Training Taleb Ould Sid Ahmed signed a protocol of cooperation agreement in the field of health. A memorandum of understanding in the field of vocational training was also signed by the Minister of Vocational Training and Education Yassine Mirabi and his Mauritanian counterpart. The signatures also included a memorandum of understanding in the micro-enterprise sector, which was signed by the Minister Delegate to the Head of Government in charge of micro-enterprises, Nassim Diafat, on the Algerian side, and on the Mauritanian side, the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training. The Mauritanian president described in a press statement the bonds of cooperation between Algeria and his country as wide, diverse, and rooted in history.
The relations of cooperation between our two brotherly countries are wide and varied. We are now working to deepen them and raise these relations to the level of brotherhood and friendship that binds our two brotherly peoples.
The two countries aim to raise their relations to the level of brotherhood and friendship that binds the two brotherly people.
To a different matter now, more than 100 of Rohingya refugees who were intercepted after the boat ran into trouble off the coast of Indonesian Aceh province were being sent into Malaysian waters. At least 100 people, mostly women and children on board of a wooden vessel said to be taken on water were denied the refugee in Indonesia and instead pushed into the neighboring Southeast Asian country. Hong Kong pro-democracy media outlet Stand News shut down on Wednesday after police raided its office, froze its access, and arrested senior staff on suspected US publication offences in the latest crackdown on the city's media. The last declaration of the World Health Organization didn't sound as assuring for people around the world as they warned of the spread of the new virus or COVID-19, explaining that this newly discovered strain remains with a really high rate, or let me say with a really high risk, as the rapid strain's transmissibility of the disease can overwhelm health centers and hospitals. Still with the coronavirus pandemic, the United States recorded more than 250,000 cases. The record comes amid a rapid acceleration of infections that the US and the rest of the world has seen since the last of this month. A violent and a nationwide wave of the newly discovered COVID-19 strain has hit Europe, and most countries in the continent are witnessing record numbers of infections every day, especially ahead of the New Year evening, which won't be an ordinary one amidst the cancellation of most events for the second year. Ayadi Osama.
Once again, Europe is witnessing a massive surge of COVID-19 infections, and countries are racing this rapidly spread strain, which was first detected in South Africa. Some countries started imposing measures against unvaccinated citizens to curb the widespread variant, while other nations of the same continent are targeting children for vaccinations. France and Spain have seen one of the widest and most violent waves of the sort in terms of infections, as they surpassed record of 100,000 on late December. Most governments introduced a list of new measures on their territories in hope to curb this violent wave. Reducing public gatherings in some countries and barring unvaccinated people from public spaces were the first measures taken by European governments, including Italy, Greece and the Netherlands, after the lockdown measures which were taken last month and the wide riots which flooded in the European streets. English Health Minister Sajid Javid stated that the United Kingdom would not impose any further measures, and it's for the people now to get cautious.
Well, of course, we look at the data on a daily basis. That hasn't changed over the Christmas period, but there will be no further measures before the new year.
The restrictions also included stores and restaurants, as citizens were restricted from eating in restaurants unless they have vaccination passes. Theaters, concert halls and art centers were ordered to shut doors, and numbers of concerts and events which were preparing for New Year's Eve have been cancelled. The majority of European countries logged a record number of infections, and the situation is getting worse for most countries around the globe. However, no apparent solution seems to be approaching.
In the same line of thought, U.S. President Joe Biden announced that he has ordered the cancellation of travel restriction to the United States from 8 African countries after these measures were imposed in the late of November due to the discovery of the new Omicron variant. Biden indicated that he issued the order at the time, which practically stopped entry from these countries to slow the spread of the Omicron mutant in the United States. According to media sources, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas visited the Zionist Entity Defense Minister at his home. The meeting focused on various issues, including security and civil matters, in which it lasted for 2.5 hours. The Zionist Entity Defense Minister told the Palestinian President that he intended to continue to endurance actions, strengthen confidence in the economic and civilian fields, as agreed during the last meeting. The year 2021 has witnessed tense relations between USA and Iran since former President Donald Trump abandoned the nuclear deal in 2018. However, the Biden administration has been seeking to revive the 2015 nuclear deal, but it is not clear how the negotiations in Vienna will end up. Islam Said.
The nuclear course between the US and Iran has changed dramatically in 2021. After it had been left by the former President Donald Trump in 2018, Iran believed that the West could never be trusted to uphold its side of any diplomatic deal. Iran's influence increased significantly last year, which dates back to the Rouhani administration, who responded to the withdrawal from the US agreement by ending its cooperation with the international surveillance system. The nuclear infrastructure was seen as a major threat. The result has seen diplomatic stagnation. In December, the parties to the agreement met again in Vienna, the 7th time they gathered in the Austrian capital to find a way of restoring the deal, and the first time since Raisi's mandate. The Iranian government has required the West fully repeal or extend sanctions, including those unrelated to its nuclear program, even while refusing to directly negotiate at all with the United States. It's yet unclear how the negotiations will ultimately end. However, Washington has declared that there is a remarkable progress in negotiations this week. It's worth noting that this week military drills led by Iran were intended to send a warning to the Zionist occupier. Iran conducted these exercises in the Persian Gulf over concerns about plans for Zionist organizations to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. The war game involved the launch of ballistic and cruise missiles. The missile has shown to flatten a target similar to the Dimona reactor in Zionist occupier.
The United States government promised its allies in Europe transparency and solidarity regarding its planned talks with Russia to address tensions over Ukraine. U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price told reporters the dialogue would focus on mutual goals. He stressed that Washington would stick to the principles of nothing about them without them regarding any issues affecting U.S. allies in Europe. A pair of dangerously close space encounters in adding to tension between U.S. and China, while underscoring the potential threat of astronaut as satellite consultation to SpaceX satellites had near misses with China's space station earlier this year, one of them within 4 kilometers, and the latest sign of dangerous overcrowding in low Earth orbit. The dam collapsed in the Brazilian state of Bahia, prompting authorities to evacuate residents at risk, mainly in the city of Itambe. No deaths or injuries have been reported for the moment. The city government of concerned province posted warnings on social media this past weekend, urging people to seek safety. In 2021, and for the second year in a row, global mobility occurred in unprecedented ways. Millions of people fled their homes out of poverty, conflicts, and damage caused by natural disasters. Nabil Khazini will tell us more.
For 2 years, the global refugee crisis has been overshadowed by the battle against COVID-19. In 2021, the number of those forcibly displaced due to poverty, conflicts, violence, and climate disasters, both within their countries and internationally, has continued to climb.
So we have to take in mind that the immigration has always existed in the world. It's a historical phenomenon. It has economical, political, social, ethnic, religious.
The amount of displacement in Mexico and Central America this year was described as unprecedented. The US has reported about 1.2 million migrants at its borders with Mexico, while Mexican authorities detained more than 250,000 migrants from January to November of this year, breaking the country's yearly record for migrants detention. Venezuela's continuing socio-economic collapse was the source of one of the largest displacement crises in the world. More than 6 million people have so far left their homes. Climate crisis-linked flooding has displaced hundreds of thousands in China, Cameroon, Malaysia, Brazil, South Sudan, and elsewhere across the globe. In Europe, the tragic death of 27 migrants in the English Channel between France and England has raised concerns about the economic and social burden of the global refugee crisis in 2021, which fell mainly on Northern Europe. Belarus' European Union border crisis was a migrant crisis consisting of influx of several tens of thousands of immigrants, primarily from Iraq, with smaller groups hailing from elsewhere in Asia and from parts of Africa to Lithuania, Latvia and Poland via those countries' borders with Belarus. In Asia, Turkey has more than 3.5 million refugees within its borders, more than any other country in the world. Jordan has almost 3 million, while Lebanon, which lives in one of the worst economic crises, hosts 1.5 million. So far, the whole world was affected by migration and refugee crisis this year, and there is every indication that the situation will get even worse the coming year.
In a wake of massive forest fires in the commune of Quilon, a noble region south of Santiago, Chile, Agriculture Minister Maria Emilia declared that the agriculture emergency on Tuesday. Local authorities reported that several regions face an extreme crisis of water due to the lack of rainfall, resulting in the rapid spread of forest fires. Again, in 2021, a series of crises highlighted the European Union's helplessness to irregular migration. Member states responded with fenced camps and pushbacks at the bloc external borders, absent of common migration and asylum policy, building that policy observers predict will be the focus of 2022. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres focused on recovery and unity in his New Year message on Tuesday. Speaking in a pre-recorded message from New York, Guterres urged world nations to commit to make 2022 a year of recovery.
Together, let's make recovery our resolution for 2022.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged countries to make the year 2022 a recovery for people and the planet. In a New Year message, he stressed the importance of prosperity, the resolutions in 2022, as the whole world has been through a lot of difficulties in the previous couple of years. The message spoke about the difficulties the world is going to face in the new year, such as poverty, climate issues, COVID-19, and the conflicts happening around the world. However, he emphasized that these issues that the whole humanity will go through are beatable if we all commit to make the 2022 a year of recovery.
The world welcomes 2022 with our hopes for the future being tested. By deepening poverty and worsening inequality, by an unequal distribution of COVID vaccines, by climate commitments that fall short, and by ongoing conflict, division, and misinformation. These are not just policy tests. These are moral and real-life tests.
Antonio Guterres spoke in details about the process that will lead recovery for each issue. As for the pandemic, he said that a plan should be prepared in order to make every and each person get vaccinated. The UN chief highlighted those countries must support the developing world to overcome economic crisis. On the other hand, he acknowledged that the key to recovery from conflicts is a renewed spirit of dialogue.
Recovery from the pandemic with a bold plan to vaccinate every person everywhere. Recovery for our economies with wealthier countries supporting the developing world with financing, investment and debt relief. recovery from mistrust and division, with a new emphasis on science, facts, and reason, recovery from conflicts, a renewed spirit of dialogue, compromise, and reconciliation.
The Secretary General delivered a message in which he said that moments of difficulties are the great opportunity to come together in solidarity, because it is an offer of a chance to unite behind solutions that benefit the whole humanity.
On March 8, journalists Nathan Mong and Nathan Nian went to the office in Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, in a bid saved to some equipment, fearing the country's new military rulers would soon order an attack on Kamayot Media, the online news publication the two men had co-founded. A mass of women marched through Kabul demanding that women's rights be honored and accused Taliban authorities of executing troops serving the former US-backed government in secret. About 30 women gathered outside the mosque in the Kabul city center and marched a few hundred meters while screaming "Justice, justice," before being halted by Taliban forces. Germany intends to take out all of its nuclear reactors and will be nuclear-free by the end of 2022, following decades of civil society opposition to the technology and many face-out decision. Hussein Berkan will clarify this decision.
Gas prices in Europe have risen by 600% in a year, owing to a global jump in demand caused by COVID-19, inducing economic slowdown, cold weather bursts, and short gas supplies from Russia. Despite Europe's energy crisis, Germany is willing to shut down 3 nuclear reactors with combined capacity of approximately 4.25 gigawatts by the end of this year, with the remaining capacities totaling approximately 4.3 gigawatts scheduled to be deactivated by the end of 2022. The government began its nuclear phase-out following Japan's Fukushima nuclear tragedy in 2011. In the short run, nuclear power will be replaced by fossil fuel power plants and imports, but this will be soon compensated by the increased use of renewable energy sources. Germany presently ranked 13th in the world in the Climate Change Performance Index, and its newly elected coalition government unveiled ambitious climate plans just weeks after taking office. Unlike Germany, France plans to build new nuclear power facilities and is pressing for nuclear energy to be included on the European Union list of low-carbon technologies. However, EDF, the French power supplies, recently stated that 4 nuclear reactors will be shut down for emergency repair, causing the country's electric power grid to run at reduced capacity until mid-January. The rise of tensions between Moscow and the West and the delays in the approval process for Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which has a significant regional strategic and geostrategic role, have raised fears that Europe, which gets a third of its gas needs from Russia, could face electricity shortage this winter due to poor supplies.
Mexico wants to stop exporting crude oil in 2023 as part of Andrés Manuel López Obrador's nationalist government's ambitions to achieve local fuel self-sufficiency. Chief Executive Octavio Romero stated during a news conference in Mexico City on Tuesday that crude oil exports will be reduced to 435,000 barrels per day in 2022 before sales to foreign clients are phased out the following year. Harry, the militant Sons of Nevada hard rock miner became a majority leader from poverty in the U.S. Senate and gained a reputation as a fierce party fighter during times of political impasse in Washington. He died at the age of 82 years old. At least 38 people were killed in the collapse of non-operational gold mine in Sudan's West Khartoum province over the weekend. On Tuesday, Sudanese Mineral Resources Company Limited said in a statement posted on Facebook that the closed non-functional mine was located in the new village of Fujassam, 700 kilometers south of the capital, Al Khartoum. More international news in this roundup by Islam Seed.
The Omicron variant of the coronavirus is raising fears of a third wave of the pandemic in India. The country on Wednesday reported a total of nearly 800 Omicron cases, while COVID-19 infections rose by 9,195 new daily cases, a 44% spike from the previous day. Italy's finance police said on Monday that they have suspended a total of 17 public and private messaging channels advertising the sale of illegal COVID-19 vaccination certificates. Authorities monitoring the network identified 9 private profiles and 8 public channels offering fake green passes both in digital and paper format. An outbreak of a bird flu of the H5N1 type at a poultry farm in the Czech Republic last week. Out of 188,000 birds from the farm, more than half of them died over the Christmas holidays. Veterinarians estimate that they will destroy around 1 million eggs by Wednesday. A court in Moscow ordered the closure of a memorial human rights center on Wednesday, in the latest blow to Russian civil society groups. The decision comes a day after Russia's Supreme Court decided to close its sister group Memorial International.
Another international roundup, but this time it's precisely on the economic sector. Let's follow this with Nabil Khazini.
European gas prices declined to near the lowest level in 3 weeks, with increased inflows at terminals in the region bringing relief to European market. This coincides with more ships heading to Europe, loaded with liquefied natural gas, raising expectations that the new supplies will help rebalance the market that is suffering from tight supplies. Bitcoin prices dropped 6.1% to $47,607, losing $3,111 from its previous price. Bitcoin, the world's biggest and best-known cryptocurrency, is down 30% from the year's high of 69,000 on November the 10th. Oil prices rose for the 7th consecutive session, tracking the impact of a broad-based raise in global markets. Brent crude is now at $78.76 per barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude WTI is at $70.72 per barrel on the latest oil prices. US billionaire Elon Musk has given up another $1 billion of his share in Tesla, moving closer to his goal of reducing his share in the electronic car market by 10%. The CEO of Tesla Corporation, the world's richest person, has sold more than 954 shares, according to a disclosure filed with the US Securities and Exchange Commission.
2021 was another year of lockdown and restriction, which meant less on-site entertainment and more TV and online occupations. Producers faced challenges to adhere to COVID protocols but managed to bring the best. Let's follow more about films and TV shows with Marim Zian.
As the year is about to end and the holiday season is here, let's see a list of the best movies and TV shows of the year. Starting with TV shows, Friends: The Reunion reunited together once again on screen after 17 years. Many of us were desperate because of the pandemic and hoped for a bit of comforting nostalgia, so the Friends reunion did not disappoint, despite taking a long time to arrive.
Everybody, that's another thing that you don't.
Seeing all 6 stars on the original set, as well as their table reads of classic episodes, gave us goosebumps.
That's a lot of information to get in 30 seconds.
Thank you all for making it. We're going to be the #1 media.
Season 3 did not disappoint after the success of Season 2. We had Campbell's rough attempts to drag his father down, Shiv's readiness to use all means necessary to stop him, and Connor's eventual gain of his father's respect during the season. 9 episodes flew by in a blink of an eye, ending with a wedding in Italy and yet another cliffhanger. The show, which explores South Korea's socio-economic disparities, smashed Netflix viewing numbers. Squid Game kept viewers interested and will eventually return for another season. Even if the series may not be everyone's favorite of the year, especially given the ending, which may have left some a little cold, but it has left a massive impact. And 2023. Daniel Craig crafted the riskiest, craziest, most character-driven James Bond film. With the help of Cary Joji Fukunaga and Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
You ever flown like this?
Nope. The wait for the movie No Time to Die was well worth it.
And the rumors keep saying that Tom Hardy is going to be the next agent. Well, according to a remarkable discovery by astronomers, nearly 200 giant planets have been spotted moving silently through space. According to European Southern Observatory researchers, these rough planets float in space and do not orbit a star as the Earth and the other planets in our solar system do.
While conventional planets, like those in our solar system, orbit a star, rogue planets roam freely without traveling around a nearby star. It would usually be impossible to detect rogue planets because, far from stars' light, they are hard to spot. However, one key fact of their existence made them visible. In the millions of years after their creation, these planets still give off enough heat to glow, making them visible to large enough telescopes. This is what allowed 70 planets, each with masses close to that of Jupiter, to be discovered in Scorpius and Ophiuchus constellations. An astronomer said,
"There could be several billions of these free-floating giant planets roaming freely in the Milky Way without a host star."
The astronomers' study suggests that there could be many more elusive, starless planets yet to be discovered, numbering in the billions in the Milky Way alone. By studying these planets, astronomers believe they could unlock clues as to how the mysterious object come to be. It is hypothesized that they are generated from the collapse of gas clouds that are too small to create a star, but they could also have been ejected from a parent system.
Moving up to sport now, and finally, Ferran Torres completes £55 million Barcelona transfer from Manchester City on a deal that includes €1 billion buyouts clause. Ferran Torres has sealed a return to Spain since he was before a player in Valencia. And now let's have a recap of our main top stories. More than 100 of Rohingya refugees who were intercepted after the boat ran into trouble off the coast of Indonesia were being sent into Malaysian waters. Plus, Hong Kong pro-democracy media outlet Stand News shut down today, Wednesday, after police raided its office and arrested senior staff on suspected serious publication. The last declaration of the World Health Organization didn't sound as assuring for people around the world as they warned of the spread of the new variant of COVID-19, explaining that the disease can overwhelm health centers and hospitals. According to media sources, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas visited the Zionist entity defense minister at his home. The United States government promised its allies in Europe transparency and solidarity regarding its planned talks with Russia to address tensions over Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Take care of yourself and have a blessed evening.